Sure.
So we've got a couple other questions. So one is from Kayelynn. So her question is, what are some ways to talk about and help regulate feelings and emotions with kids at home? Sarah, what do you think about that one? What do you recommend?
Great question, Kayelynn. So I think one example is just kind of what I just shared with, it's called co-regulation activity. So something that you can do with your children that's helpful for not only you, but for them. So the 5 senses activity is one example. I would also say, just like as a conversation starter about emotions, something that can be really helpful is using feeling charts, especially if your child might not know all of the words for feelings yet, or it might just be hard for them to verbalize how they're feeling. So there are a couple of different ones that are very easy to find that suit different developmental levels with how many different emotions there are. Some of my favorites include emojis. I think those are really relatable for kids to kind of pick out. And otherwise, I'd say just kind of like trying to be really gentle, like with yourself and with your children right now, like being aware of the fact that there are heightened emotions for everybody right now. And so when you do notice that like you're maybe having some strong emotions, it's okay, and it's a great opportunity for you to model that communication for your children. So, let's say you drop something on the floor and you were feeling just like really frustrated and really overwhelmed, and your child saw that. That's an opportunity for you to say, oh man, I am just feeling so frustrated right now. I think I just need to take a couple of deep breaths so that I can keep doing what I was doing. That helps your kids to see that it's okay to have some of those harder emotions, and that there's something that they can do about it when they do have those emotions.
Yeah. I think that's such a great point. I think using the emotional language, like just as part of how you conversate within your family, makes such a huge difference. So when you are able to, as an adult or, as a teenager or whoever, if, people are able to label how they're feeling in the moment, it's a lot easier for us to really, address any, maybe behavioral things that are going along with it. Because I think it's a lot easier for us to sort of look at the behaviors that maybe kids are exhibiting that we would prefer they not do, but not really looking at sort of the emotional piece behind it. So if we're able to use sort of that emotional language to communicate with each other, hopefully it can kind of, cut down on some of the behavioral things that we might see kids do.
Yeah, exactly. Great point.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, thank you, Kayelynn, for that wonderful question. And then our last one for today is from Danielle. So her question is, how often should I allow my children to take breaks from their schoolwork? So Megan, what thoughts do you have about that one?
Yeah, so that is, like I talked about a little bit, having different breaks, having a little bit of flexibility within your schedule that you create is so important to have, because when you sit down and you say, so from 9 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you have to only be doing your schoolwork. That's really tough on kids to have to sit there for that long. And, there are so many different academic activities that you can be doing that don't feel like school for kids. So like I had talked about, doing some of those kind of creative, engineer-like activities feel like you're doing something fun, all at the same time while you're able to help your kid learn about something new, kind of taking that minute to teach them about, why does this balloon make this car go? Or even talking about, the importance of why we should do this as a family, or why you need to have an adult with this activity, or different things like that. And just making sure that, when you are taking breaks, that it's not a break to, again, like for the older kids, sit and stare through social media. A lot of times it can be tricky trying to figure out how to limit screen time. And the schedule that we're going to be sharing is pretty cool because it does have the morning half of the day is academic style things, and then the afternoon is academic activities that can include electronics and things like that. So even if you are taking a break, having them sit down and read a book or do a puzzle or draw a picture, those are all things that are still keeping them developing and growing and working on different skills while still having fun, and still being able to make sure that we're not spending all of our time with technology, and being able to do something fun like a Sudoku puzzle or a word search or something like that.
That's great. It's like almost like breaks can still be teachable moments too.
Yeah.
You can kind of, you as a parent get to define what a break looks like for your kids too. And I think, to one of the things that Sarah said that I thought was really important is, just giving everybody everybody needs a break too. This is stressful for all of us, and it's a huge change to everybody's schedule and their normal, and I mean any normal that us as adults have grown up with too. This is not usual for most of us. So I think allowing for breaks is essential, and to know, like, even if they're just doing a couple hours a day and that's kind of all they can manage under these circumstances, you're still giving them some resources and some things to do that are positive and helping to further their education. All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Danielle, for that amazing question. So we are going to take a quick break, and then after the break, we're going to have two of our master's level interns join us, and we have some questions for them. They're going to talk about their experience at Small Talk. But before that, we're going to have a segment from our prevention specialist, Aubrey, who's going to talk a little bit about child abuse prevention and some tips and some ideas that you can use during this really important time. So we will see you guys in just a couple minutes.
Hey everybody, I'm Aubrey and I'm the Prevention Specialist for Small Talk Children's Advocacy Center. Today I want to take a couple minutes to talk to you about Darkness to Light's What If game and why it's an important game to play with kids and teens. We know that 90% of youth are abused by someone they know, and this includes other youth. So in having proactive conversations about abuse with our children, 90% of the time we should include someone they know. This could be aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and even parents. Yes, I know these conversations can be difficult, but kids learn best when given real-world examples. And these are the situations that can be riskiest for kids. The What If game is not only great for conversations about abuse, but you can use it for other situations kids may experience in the real world. You could use examples like, what would you do if that boy at school called you names again? Or, what would you do if someone on the internet asked you to send a picture with no clothes on? How would you handle that situation? Always let kids be the one to pick the options. You can help guide them along, but they should be the ones who pick how they handle the situation. When kids can say, hey, I thought of that and it was a great idea, versus a parent telling them you should do this or this, they're more likely to remember how to handle the situation if it comes up. Remember, these conversations are great ways to strengthen bonds as our family, and the What If game is a great way to help empower our children. For more information on the What If game, visit Darkness to Light's website, or you can visit Small Talk's Facebook page where you can find more resources and support. Thanks, and I hope everybody's staying safe. Bye.
All right, well, welcome back. Hopefully that session from Aubrey was helpful and had a lot of great tips and ideas of things that they're important to consider for child abuse prevention, especially with this being Child Abuse Prevention Month. This is something that's kind of top of mind for all of us here at Small Talk. But while we're on the topic of prevention, I want to introduce our two very, very special guests, Hope and Kayelynn. They are both master's level interns with us here at Small Talk, both at MSU. and we're really excited to have you guys here today. So welcome, and thank you for being our very first guests on our very first show.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. So we wanted to do something really quick to kind of get, a sense of who you guys are. We did a short icebreaker before. So I know Sarah's going to pull one up so we can just kind of get to know you guys a little bit better. Our audience, we know you guys pretty well, but we want all the other people who are watching this to know how awesome you guys are.
All right. So this is called Break the Ice. It's very original. Who's gonna go first?
I can go first.
All right. The anticipation.
Right. What was your favorite school subject? In high school, I would say it was English. I really enjoyed writing papers or getting to read the books that were chosen. And then in college, I actually took one of the yoga classes that they offered, and I thought that was super interesting that I got a chance to do that.
That's
Nice.
sweet.
Cool. Thanks, Kayla.
All right, Hope.
I'm ready.
We need a drum roll.
Yeah.
Oh no. Should we do another one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna
Not-
eliminate it so that doesn't happen again.
Not that we're not interested. Just want to switch it up.
If you could have any animal as a pet, what would you choose? Oh, that's tough. I don't know, because I really like all different types of animals, but more recently I have been seeing like videos of penguins and stuff, and them just waddling around, and I think it'd be really funny to just have a penguin in your house waddling around from room to room. So maybe that.
That's a good
Nice
one. I feel like that's a really popular answer. I think a lot of people would want penguins.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know if I would put myself in that group, but they are cute. I agree. All right. Well, again, thank you guys for joining us for our show. So we just kind of, came off of a segment about prevention, since it is Child Abuse Prevention Month. So we kind of wanted to get you guys' insights into, why you feel like child abuse prevention is so important.
I can go first.
Right.
So I think one reason that child abuse is so important to focus on is that it's an issue that doesn't discriminate. And I think that's something that's important to take into consideration because so many children and families are impacted by this issue from all different backgrounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's huge.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Kayelynn. And, on top of it too, like, it's just really important to think about like the population and, think about the different numbers and statistics with it. And even though we feel like the statistics for child abuse are pretty high, it seems like even that number might not even be accurate just because of how many children don't end up reporting or their families don't end up reporting just because, for many different reasons. Some of them being just like the child doesn't, tell anybody. They don't think that, they're going to be believed, or, maybe they tell their parents, but, their parents don't believe them, or the child just feels like if they tell the family that it's just going to complicate things, or, there's just so many different reasons to it, as well as, just differing ideas about child abuse, just that, you know, people might not believe or think that it happens in their communities, or believe that, you know, the offenders are, you know, strangers in the bushes, and that's not necessarily true. And I don't know, I could talk for a while about it, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
sorry.
No, go ahead, Kayelynn.
I was just going to say, I looked up some of the statistics, and they said that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys were experiencing abuse. And so before their 18th birthday, and that is just something that we all need to take into consideration, because this is something that's impacting us within our community. And like Hope said, it's important to be knowledgeable about the people that come in contact with our children, and making sure that we are aware and we are taking preventative steps where needed.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you shared about the gender statistics, because I think there's a big misconception that a lot of people have, that like especially sexual abuse only happens to girls, but really we know that it happens to boys almost as regularly, and we need to definitely pay attention to that, because we want to make sure that boys feel like they can come forward with that information too, and there's not already, you know, an additional barrier for them to disclose.
Yeah, and I think too, when you look at those numbers, I think sometimes you can say like, you know, maybe, you know, 1 in 4 or 25% of people is not like that much, but when you look at like the entire population of kids that are under the age of 18, that's a huge amount of children that are exposed to something that is, you know, really detrimental, really traumatic for them. So it really is important for us to be aware that it is such a problem, so that we can eliminate the stigma of child abuse, and the, you know, being able to talk about it openly, which is, I mean, I think one of the really great things that we can do, you know, with the show as a platform, is really bring some attention to, you know, that child abuse is a real thing that happens in our communities. And you know, one of the best ways to combat it is for us to have open conversations about it. So that's why we're so happy that, you know, you guys were able to join us here today to talk about something that's so important. So one of the kind of transitioning topics a little bit, you guys are both interns for us, or have been interns for us since the fall. So you've been through the auction with us, and lots of other, you know, just work-related things. You've, you know, transitioned from being in the office to now, obviously, we're doing teletherapy, so you guys are actively involved in that with your clients. Just kind of going back to when you first were looking at internship sites and deciding where you wanted to end up, what made you guys decide to come to Small Talk for your internship?
do you want to go first, Kayelynn?
Sure. So I had done a little bit of research on Small Talk when preparing to get my internship, and I just knew that Small Talk had those connections within the community, and that they were taking those steps to not only just bring awareness, but to spread the knowledge of like preventative measures against child abuse. And I just kind of wanted to join in that effort, and just to kind of bring awareness to this issue.
That's great.
When it comes to Small Talk specifically, I mean, I knew that I really wanted to work with children and families coming into this internship, and so I was going to be happy doing that no matter what. But for me, I'm a big environment person. I really want my work environment to be positive, and to have, you know, positive, hardworking coworkers. And so when I came in to do my first interview, and I got into Small Talk, and I looked around, and it just felt like a really safe, inviting environment, and I really, really liked that. And just automatically it made me want to be part of the team, and it made me want to, you know, learn more and be part of this healing process that you guys have been doing throughout the years. So
Oh, thank you. That's so nice to hear. Well, can you guys, maybe each of you, share sort of an experience or moment that you had at Small Talk that was really impactful for you during your internship?
Sure. So back in January, for those of you watching that aren't aware, Small Talk had an Inside Out camp, and I believe it's for children 6 to 12. But they were able to come in and we watched the movie Inside Out. But really the impactful piece for me was getting a chance to work with all the kids, and we created a little control panel similar to what was in the movie, but it allowed them an opportunity to learn about like different relaxation skills, ways to express their emotions, and then ways to even cope with them. And then after that experience, we had a couple different kiddos and their families come and just give us some feedback on their experience. And I just think that was really impactful to me, that seeing that these kids not only had a great time here, but they were able to take those skills and bring them home or bring them to school and use them in their different environments.
That's great.
Yeah, I think for me, it's hard to just pinpoint one moment. There's just been so many things that, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is just the experience of, you know, being a counselor there, because I think that when it comes to therapy, sometimes like our hope is just that we can plant seeds in order for, you know, to enhance, you know, change and growth. And sometimes when we plant those seeds, we're not exactly sure if, you know, the idea is going to sink in or if it's going to work. And so I think that anytime that I had a client that, you know, I teach them a new coping skill and in hopes that they, you know, go home and use it when they're, you know, upset or, you know, things like that. And just hearing from them, you know, the next week that they come in that they've used it or that the family is helping them use it or, you know, things like that, when you really recognize that they're benefiting from therapy and, you know, when they're speaking to you and kind of you can sense that they're gaining that sense of empowerment is really uplifting, I think. So it's a bunch of little moments from therapy, I would say.
That's awesome. That's great. All right. And then, so what do you think is something that you guys will take away from your experience that you'll use in your careers as you finish up your internships here at Small Talk?
So many different things. I think one of the biggest things for me is just reminding ourselves that change is possible and we're able to grow. I know many families that probably feel that coming to Small Talk isn't always under the best circumstances, but that we are here to help them in any way that we can. And in addition to just counseling resources, Megan's been a great addition to the team in the fact that she can help with other things, including like, you know, court processing and the financial resources for family or help with the school systems. Like, I think Small Talk is just a very well-rounded organization, and the fact that they can help families in more than just like one area of their lives. So I just think the big takeaway for me is just seeing the fact that like change is possible and we can make that change for families.
That's great.
Yeah, there's so many things. I feel like my learning process, I've just learned so much. I think probably one of the coolest things for me that I will take into other fields is just like learning about the CAC model, but in the aspect of how important it is to get all other services involved and really open that communication up for, you know, the children and families to help guide them and support them in the best ways, as well as just like learning about trauma in general. My education on that has just grown so much, and so I know that especially I will be using with all different populations throughout my career. So.
That's great. It's a wonderful plug for any other interns who want to come to Small Talk someday. You know, I think it's a really unique experience to get to do an internship at a CAC, I think, in general, because you get exposure to, like you were saying, Hope, to, you know, law enforcement and CPS and their sort of roles in the process as well, I think is really unique experience. But I just want to say thank you to you guys for all of the work you've done during your internships. You guys have, I think you definitely have left your mark on Small Talk, and we are definitely going to miss you guys, but we know you're going to do really great things in your careers. And thank you again for joining us today. And I don't know if Megan or Sarah had anything else they want to share about how great Hope and Kayelynn are.
Yeah, I thought it was,
Go ahead.
sorry. I thought it was really great just to be able to, as somebody who is newer like myself, to be able to watch Small Talk just kind of grow and expand and learn all these new different techniques, and even to watch the two of you learning and adapting to a lot of new things that are totally new to staff, or like some super challenging things that you were able to accomplish on your own as counselors, and to be doing them as interns is incredible, and it's really cool to have watched that, and just to kind of see where you'll be able to take that knowledge and how you'll be able to spread that around too.
Yeah, and I just want to say that it's so heartwarming and touching to hear how much you all will take away from your experience with us. But I think it's fair to say that we have gained so much from our experience with you, and the level of passion and creativity you have when you're working with clients is just so inspiring. So we know that you're gonna go on to do really incredible things in the field of social work, and we're just so proud of you both. So thanks for all your help.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for everything.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah. And when we have the show going for 10 more years, we'll have you guys back for our 100th episode.
We'd love it.
The original special guest.
Right, yeah, exactly. Well, that'll be fun. We'll bring you back.
Sounds good. How about the 10-year reunion? I'll be
Yes, that's
for
a
the
great
email.
All right. That sounds awesome. Well, thank you again, Hope and Kayelynn, for joining us today, and for your, all your work you did at our internship. So we're gonna go ahead and close it out from there. So we just wanted to thank all of you for watching and bearing with us through our first episode. Well, we're going to have many more, and we want to encourage you to keep submitting your questions. You can do those on our Facebook page, or you can send us a message. We're here to help. We just want to make sure that you guys have the resources you need to get through this and pass it and thrive despite all these difficult circumstances and consequences that we're dealing with right now. So thank you, and we'll see you again next week with some more special guests. Once again, I just want to thank you for tuning into our first episode of Big Conversations with Small Talk. I hope you had a really great time, learned some really good things, some really great information that you can use with your families to help keep them safe and occupied and engaged during this really challenging time. Small Talk has definitely had to adapt to this changing environment. We're providing online services now, online counseling, to make sure that all the clients that we currently see don't have any interruption in their services. And we're also anticipating as a staff that when we come out the other side of this pandemic, we're going to see a surge in cases. We know that there are children currently at home who are isolated in homes that are not safe, with no access to the mandated reporters that are there to help protect them. And we want to make sure that we're able to meet that need. We will, find a way, one way or another, because that is our mission and that's our goal. But in order to do that, we need your help. So if you find it in your heart to make a donation to Small Talk today, a donation in any amount goes a long way to continuing to provide the healing services to children that they need and that they deserve. I can't speak enough about the amazing children that we see at Small Talk every day, and the level of growth and healing that they are able to accomplish by having consistent trauma-informed services. I think there's so many things that are stressing us out about this current pandemic. I don't think we can
set aside the idea that there are kids that are out there that are suffering not only from the isolation and the stress and the financial strain that this virus is putting on all of us, but there are also children that are suffering from trauma at the same time, and we want to make sure that these children get the services that they deserve, and all children in our community who have experienced sexual and severe physical abuse deserve the services that we provide at Small Talk. So again, if you can find it in your hearts to make a donation to us, we would certainly really appreciate it. It goes a long way in healing the children of our community and then healing our community as a whole. So if you do want to make a donation, you can do so by going to smalltalkcac.org/donate and making a donation in any amount. We would really appreciate it. And on behalf of all of our staff and all the children that we serve and our board, I just want to say thank you again for your support. And we will see you guys next week for more big